Well, I want to welcome Yvonne and Keisha to the show with me today. They are going to take this journey with me today to cook one of my favorite dishes that I have learned from a friend. And today I want to share that with my friends. I did mention that cooking is a passion and this is a ministry for me. So I am focused on helping young people and ladies like Keisha to get in the groove of cooking and teaching the young ones in the next generation, because that's where the future should be, is cooking for the family. So let's get going. But before we do you want to introduce yourself just briefly?
I'm Yvonne Isabanaya, and I'm 16, and I'm currently a junior in high school. Yeah.
Thank you, Yvonne.
I'm Keisha Carter. I am 38 years old, about to be 39 in a couple months, and cooking is a passion for me as well. I've learned how to cook Asian and Italian, and now starting today I am learning how to cook West African cuisine. So excited.
Thank you. So today we are going to cook greens. Well, different people cook greens differently. This recipe was shared by a friend who is originally from Cameroon. When she shared it, of course, I twisted it around to make sure that it caters to Gambian cooking and caters to Gambian taste, because I was born and raised in the Gambia. So we are going to get started, but before we do, I want to introduce to you the ingredients that we are going to use today. So over here we have our salt, and this is habanero peppers, onions already cut and diced. This is beyond cubes. We like to cook with Maggi cubes in the Gambia, so it adds taste to every food, so I cannot cook without it. Over here we have the juice from the diced onions, which we are going to use later. And then we have our olive oil over here. And in this pot, we have our turkey. It's already cut and boiled. And then we have our plantains. Then we have our greens. So this is everything we have to work with. So let's get started. First, we're going to blend our habaneros. Habanero peppers first, and then we add our onions to it. So that's ready to go. I love habaneros because they give a spicy taste to especially meats, to food, especially meats. We did already boil the turkey. So what we're going to do is fry it. The reason we boil it first is because we want to make sure that when we fry it, it's well done on the inside.
Quick question, do you use regular, just plain old turkey, or do you actually use smoked turkey?
This is smoked turkey.
Okay.
And I like to use the drumsticks, and for a show like this, I eliminate the bone. So this is just the turkey meat.
Is there a specific amount of turkey you need to use?
Well, today I used 2 drumsticks, but eliminated the bone, so I just cut the meat out of the 2 drumsticks, and that's what we're using today. So we'll just wait a few minutes for the oil to warm up. We'll go ahead and transfer the turkey into the oil to brown it. And because it's already boiled, when we fry it, it will turn into a golden brown color. Very beautiful. Keisha, since we already boiled our turkey, I'll just go ahead and set it down, and we'll start boiling our plantains. Okay. The plantains is water with the plantains and salt. Thank you, Keisha. Well, if you notice, the plantains, I'm boiling them with the skin on.
Okay.
And there is a purpose for that. Because if we peel the plantains and boil it, when we take it out of the water, it's going to be, it will be dry. The moisture will be sucked out. Okay. So the skin on the plantain keeps it moist. And we are going to reserve the juice.
Okay.
because the juice, if we need more juice to cook the greens, we would use the juice from the turkey.
Okay.
And also the juice from the tomatoes if we need it.
Smelling amazing.
Thank you, Keisha. Well, this is one of my favorite dishes. Like I said, the first time I tasted it, I thought this was the tastiest greens I've ever had. And so I fell in love with the recipe. And of course, I decided to ask my friend to share the recipe with me, and she was gracious enough to share it. And I've been cooking it since then. My family love it.
And I did have the privilege of having someone make your wedding.
Right, right. I remember that. At the time of the
Very
wedding, I didn't know how to prepare it then. So I remember you asking me, you said, I tasted these greens. They're so tasty. How did they make them? I said, greens? I don't know. But then I made it a point to find out because I love food, I love cooking, I love entertaining people. So why not? Why not turn my passion into a ministry?
And what a great ministry it is.
Well, my mom taught me that food has a way of uniting people and bringing people together. And my mom and dad didn't have a perfect marriage, but through my mom's cooking, he magically, I mean, it was just magic. She was able to magically get my dad to focus more and pull the family together. And in Africa, we have a saying that the way to a man's heart is to his stomach. And we truly believe in that. If you want to get a great marriage, cook for your husband. So again, too, another reason for this ministry is young people, young men, old ladies, I'm encouraging everyone, cook for those men. The way to their heart is to their stomach.
I agree. I think it goes both ways though sometimes.
It does, it does. But I just watch my dad will go out, but he will always come home
For a meal.
for meals and then go back out. But he comes home and he must eat his wife's cooking. So, and I was able to see my mom make some really interesting requests right at the table. And it was always granted.
Smart mother.
Smart. So it's browning slowly. So Yvonne, are you a fan of greens?
Yes.
Yes, you are. I'm sure you've never tasted these kind of greens. So today you'll get to taste it. And the goal is, Yvonne, is not just to bring you here to watch me cook, but what do you think the goal is? Why do you think I invited you?
To learn from it.
To learn from it. And once you learn, what are you going to do with it, the skill?
Use in the future.
Oh yes, you're going to now step in the kitchen, help mommy, and start making greens for mommy and other great recipes. And by the way, Keisha and Yvonne and everyone watching, we have a cookbook coming up,
Yes.
West African Perspective. So this is all going to be part of that. This is one of the featured recipes in the cookbook.
I love how deep the color is getting.
It's getting deep because we boiled it, so that's a very good trick. If you want meat to turn really brown and acquire a very nice brown color, boil it first, not too much, just boil it half done and fry it. And that makes it really brown and nice. I like where it is now, so I think I'm going to add the onions.
Now you add the onions into the cooking oil with the...
Right. So we saute it together, get it to acquire that brown color too. And this will be a good time to add the diced onions, but we'll just give it, the tomatoes, we'll give it a few minutes to saute, just marinate with it, with the turkey before we add
And
the,
you still don't drain it. No draining.
no draining, not at this time. But then before you serve it, if you're not a fan of a lot of oil, you can actually drain some of the excess oil out.
And this was cooked in olive oil.
It was cooked in olive oil, yes.
Are there any other oil substitutions that you can use?
Well, many people use different kinds of oils. I'm a fan of either olive oil or vegetable oil.
Okay.
Those are my two favorites. But if I have to saute, cook anything, if I want to fry, like deep frying, I use vegetable oil to cook that dish. But if it's just light frying and sauteing, I like to use olive oil.
Okay.
Now we will add the tomatoes. If you notice, I have a lot of tomatoes in this, and the recipe is will be in the cookbook. This is one of the featured recipes. So if you buy the cookbook, You will see all the quantities in the cookbook of how much turkey, how much tomatoes, and everything. We want you to buy the cookbook. That's why we're not giving you all the specifications.
Do you pre-rinse them or anything, or do you just throw them in frozen?
These are already frozen. If I had bought the fresh greens, then I will rinse them and dice them, chop them myself. But these are already frozen.
Okay.
So no, I do not do anything with it. Just add it to. And usually when I cook this meal, you can go both ways. If you want to, Yvonne, and this is a tip for you to know too, you can actually use a combination of collard greens and spinach.
Okay.
If you use the combination, make sure that you cook the collard greens first because those are harder and it takes longer to cook. And then you add the spinach. Let's go ahead and check on this. Make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pot. So we're stirring it frequently, Yvonne, so it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pot. So when you cook at home, you cannot have the pot on the fire and watching a show or browsing on your phone and talking to your friends on Facebook because the food may burn up. So you have to stay right there. Make sure you stir it constantly to avoid burning.
Good job. Great tip.
We have to because I believe in what the Bible says that the older women should teach the younger ones.
Yes.
I believe in that. That's what this is all about, teaching younger generation. And I do observe a lot in our culture today. I watch families, I watch my own children, and I have nieces and everything. And one thing I've noticed that has really been the drive behind this ministry is that I see young people getting away from traditions, cooking, traditional meals. There are a lot of meals that my kids enjoy today. If I don't cook them how to make these meals, that legacy will be lost down the line. If I'm no longer here to prepare those meals, they may never get to cook them. So this is what this is all about, all moms to buy into this idea that it's a legacy that we're leaving for our children. And in your generation, Yvonne, you guys cannot cook without recipes.
Yeah.
Well, growing up in Africa, all the foods that I cooked, I didn't have a single recipe. We memorized every dish, all the ingredients we used to cook it, how long it takes, everything was memorized. Even, we did not even measure salt and pepper, and it better not be too salty. So we were smart young people. And I know you guys are smart too, you just don't pay attention. So I've given you a recipe that you can follow step by step, and now you'll be helping your mom in the kitchen, right, Yvonne? Yeah. Great. Let's check on the plantains. These are cooking nicely. See, Keisha, what I was saying? When
Coming off.
see how it's popping out? Because it's done.
So when you're adding your seasoning, do you put it all in at one time?
No, actually I started with blending the peppers and the onions together, and then I added the tomatoes. I want to add them bit by bit into the pot because some of these, like the onions, need to cook longer than the tomatoes. Yvonne, are you loving this already? Yeah. Great.
Just wait until you taste it. Tastes amazing.
So now we can add some of our greens in the pot.
And that's frozen?
That's frozen, but it doesn't have to be frozen when you cook it. Sometimes I let it thaw, and so it's not frozen when I cook it. But today, I decided to go frozen. Like I said, cooking, like my mom taught me, is all about being creative. So I like to tweak things and do it differently every time I cook. Same meal cooked so many times. Every time I cook it, I add something or take away something from it, just to make it interesting.
Do you ever cover it, or do you just?
Yes. Once all the greens are in, I'll cover it up. So how about we add some salt right now? Again, too, in the cookbook, the measurements are there of how much salt you will add. So for today, for this show, we're going to sprinkle just 1 tablespoon of salt. 1 teaspoon. It's getting there. How about we add Maggi? Now, I'm just adding 1 cube for right now. And if we need to add more later, then we can.
And so what type of What flavor of Maggie cube is this?
Well, this one I bought, this one is from Gambia. It's called Aja,
Okay.
and that's the one I'm using today.
And what's that flavor? Is it like a tomato or is it like?
No, actually, sorry. It's a combination of, it tastes like onion, peppers, just that blend of onions and peppers and salt. It doesn't have tomatoes in it. Not this one. And remember, Yvonne, I know you are wondering, how does she know how much salt is enough? How does she know how, because remember I told you growing up, we cooked everything with eyeball measurement. Eyeball measurement. You look at the pot, you know exactly how much salt you need, how much pepper you need. So that's why.
But for the sake of the newbies, in the book, it'll tell you 1 tablespoon or 2 teaspoons.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what the cookbook, that's the purpose the cookbook will serve. And we'll come back to it later. It's almost done. We let it cook for a few more minutes. Our plantains are done. They're ready to go. We'll turn it off. We'll let it cool down a little bit so we can warm it up, cut it up. At this moment, so you can see we don't need to add a lot of juices to this because the spinach is frozen. So we have enough juice going to cook it for now.
Okay. So it's vastly different from traditional American greens, which is cooked in a pot with a whole bunch of water and some pork in it or something like that. It's normally, some people have transitioned to smoked turkey, but the traditional American greens, there's a big pot, there's a whole bunch of water. And so I guess that's the American version of this.
Maybe, yes. Sounds like that it is. So why a lot of water?
I think that back when African Americans would cook it, there was always a shortage of greens and maybe a shortage of the meat, and so the liquor, the water in it, the fluid in it kind of made it like a soup, and so you could eat it like a soup with cornbread.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Our parents, our grandparents, they were very smart. They knew. So if you're cooking it at home and you're cooking a lot of greens, you may need all of the reserve from the turkey, or you may need the tomato juice. But in this case, since we're cooking just a little bit for a family of 3, we will not need to add a lot of water. So now how about we let this cook and we drain the water from the plantains, peel the skin off, cut it up, and we'll be ready to serve in a few minutes. And Yvonne, our plantains are well done. We are ready to take this, peel it off, and cut it up in any shape, our desired shape. So here we go. The plantain is ripe, so it's soft. Soft but not mushy.
So can you interchange plantains with bananas with plantains?
Well, from what I learned, bananas is a fruit and plantain is considered a vegetable. So, and when you cook it, the result is different. Bananas tend to cook softer and kind of mushy, and plantains cook hard. They maintain their shape when you cook plantain. So to answer your question, no. And for this specific purpose, we are going to eat it with plantains and not bananas. Does that answer your question, Keisha? I know you like to try things, but don't cook it with bananas.
It won't go well.
It will not go well.
And so these greens are considered a delicacy, right?
Well, in Cameroon, from what my friend shared with me, it is a delicacy. And if they cook it the Cameroonian way. And like I said, I like to cook to cater to my own taste and my cooking style. So when my friend shared the recipe with me, she told me you chop the onions and the tomatoes together. But if you notice, I did not chop it. I used diced tomatoes instead because that's my cooking style. For this particular recipe, when I cook it, I like to see the tomatoes. That's why I use diced instead of chopped. Yvonne and Keisha, I want to thank you guys so much, you two, so much for joining me today. This is our finished product. Here we go. Our greens cooked with turkey and spinach. How about you try it? How about all of us try it? But I'll give you an opportunity first.
That's amazing.
Good.
It's so good. It is so good. The flavor is so intense.
Great. And it's so easy, simple to make. Very easy to make. So Yvonne, are you going to start cooking for your mom?
Yes.
For those of you watching, for this recipe and many more, we have a lot of recipes in our cookbook. Please visit our website. It's www.classickitchen.com. Every month we'll be cooking here and we'll have different guests. So even if you're not the guest, please log on to our website at a later date and you can actually watch the step-by-step the instruction video of the featured recipe of the month. So the featured recipe for this month is greens, tasty greens from Classic Kitchen. Thank you so much for joining us and I hope you enjoy the meal.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.